Hello YouTube, my name is Nero, TV support Call of Duty World War II. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are going to be reviewing the Resistance map pack, the first of 4 DLC map packs that'll be coming out here in 2018. I chose to delay this video a little bit so I could really take my time and get a feel for what the maps are actually like. As a YouTuber, it's typically best to just rush my video out as fast as humanly possible so I can be one of the first and therefore get all the views. But I find that first impressions videos of map packs are pretty much dictated by how well that person did in their very limited experience. If they did well in their first few games on the new maps, they're pretty likely to say the DLC is incredible. If they did poorly, they're pretty likely to say the DLC is garbage. I've had a mixed bag so far. I had to move over to PlayStation to play the new maps. I start over on the level 1 account, and I've had my fair share of awesome games and terrible games. So I think I've actually got a pretty good feel for what the new maps are actually like, and I want to discuss all of them here in today's video. The first map we're going to be taking a look at is my personal favorite, Valkyrie, otherwise known as Wolf's Lair. This is definitely the smallest map of the DLC, but don't let that fool you. It's not completely dominated by submachine guns and shotguns like you might imagine. One thing I've actually noticed while playing the Resistance maps is every single one of them works well for all weapon types and play styles. The maps that came with the game at launch were criticized for being too clustered and fast-paced, which caused a heavy submachine gun meta to evolve, but these maps are a lot different. They have longer lines of sight and more open areas, which is definitely a very good thing to see. Valkyrie's layout features a lot of interior fighting, but with how the buildings and pathways are positioned, you'll still find yourself in a lot of very long-range gunfights. It doesn't feature a traditional 3-lane setup, but it does have a lot of great flow that, in my opinion, doesn't feel forced. There's a very fine line when it comes to making a multiplayer map. Developers want their maps to promote movement, but sometimes they overdo it and add way too many walkways and side paths and entrances into everywhere until eventually you have a map like Point to Hawk, which feels like an ant farm. Valkyrie so far does not seem to suffer from that issue, though that may be due to them taking some inspiration from an old fan favorite. Some of you guys may have seen this already, but the bird's eye layout of Valkyrie is remarkably similar to that of Detroit, a map that was featured in Sledgehammer's last game, Advanced Warfare. I cannot deny how shockingly similar those layouts appear to be, but I will say from experience that Valkyrie plays really nothing like Detroit, and the two maps are actually quite different from one another, despite having very similar layouts if you look at them from a top-down perspective. The buildings are not only in different locations, but they have different interiors, they have different windows and entrances, the lines of sight are different, even the side paths are completely different. Again, it looks pretty damning when you look at that image right there, but I promise you guys, it's not like they just reskinned Detroit and put it into this game. I would know, I put a lot of time into Advanced Warfare, but so far, Valkyrie is my favorite map of this DLC. It's a lot of fun to play on, and dare I say, it's becoming one of my favorite maps here in Call of Duty World War II. Next up, we have Anthropoid, which is set in the Czech Republic. This map feels and plays much differently than any other map in this game. Not only is it giant, but it features a ton of verticality, which is something we don't have a lot of in this game. It has a lot of very long sight lines, and it even has water, which actually plays into the map itself. So the little river that kind of divides the map into two, you can swim in there. That's a thing you can actually do, though don't jump in there from a 2-story building. It's actually pretty shallow, and you will die. What makes Anthropoid feel so unique to me is just how different it is compared to any other map, not only in Call of Duty World War II, but the rest of the Call of Duty franchise. If you think of an average COD map, typically the center is going to be very condensed and full of cover, and the outsides are going to be more open and dangerous. Well, here on this map, the center is actually very open, and the outsides are actually full of cover, with, of course, a bunch of different buildings and lots of verticality. That's the biggest thing about Anthropoid. There is so much verticality on this map that it really makes you play and think in a different way than you're used to here in Call of Duty World War II, especially when somebody's running around with Scrambler. You see them in the building, you're like, okay, are they upstairs, downstairs, are they over by the flag, are they on the other end of the wall? You really have no idea because there are so many layers to this map itself. It's a lot of fun. I have to admit, when Anthropoid was first announced, I didn't think really much of it. I saw it was set in the Czech Republic, which is an area of World War II that not a lot of people are familiar with. I thought, okay, it's going to be a city map, it's not going to be anything special, but now I've actually played around with it quite a bit, I'm happy to say that Anthropoid is a pretty awesome map, and it definitely adds a lot of variety to the Call of Duty World War II multiplayer. Next up, we have Occupation, which is a remake of the Modern Warfare 3 classic map Resistance, which happens to share a name with this DLC, which is confusing a lot of people. If you played this map map back in Modern Warfare 3, you are going to be very happy to find that it plays exactly like it did back in the day. The sight lines are all there, the buildings are all laid out the same. I don't think they actually made any changes to the map. I could be wrong, but I haven't found any so far. By and large, it's an awesome trip down memory lane for old school Call of Duty fans. I will say that so far it feels like the map plays slower than I thought it was going to. That may be due to the fact that I actually played a lot of ground war back in Modern Warfare 3, and it's not exactly fair to compare 9v9 Modern Warfare 3 to 6v6 Call of Duty World War II. But I think a big factor of that is right now we can only play these DLC maps in a mosh pit playlist, which means we have 4 game modes on 3 different maps. And for example, if I play Domination on Occupation, if I want to play Dom on Occupation again, it may be 2 hours before that actually happens because, again, 4 game modes, 3 maps. Do the math, right? So I think the map is actually pretty good. It's the same map we saw back in Modern Warfare 3. I just wish we were able to play it more often as compared to getting lucky with a mosh pit playlist. I'll never understand why developers choose to make it so you can only play the new DLC maps in a mosh pit as compared to just adding them to the standard map rotation as soon as the map pack is released. But yeah, by and large, I really do enjoy Occupation. It's a beautiful remake. I love what they did with it aesthetically, and I think it's going to be an awesome addition to the Call of Duty World War II multiplayer. Finally, we have the brand new war map, Operation Intercept. Even though I don't post a ton of war footage here to my channel, I really do like the war game mode and the change of pace that it provides, though in my opinion, war got kind of old quickly because we played the same 3 maps over and over and over. Even though it's a really cool idea, it gets stale pretty quick, which is why I think I'm actually enjoying my time with Operation Intercept so much. It's a breath of fresh air for a game mode that, for me anyway, has gotten kind of stale since releasing back in November. So in Operation Intercept, the Germans are trying to take some captive French resistance fighters away on their train. The ultimate goal, of course, for the attacking team is to stop that train, but before they do so, they have a few other objectives they have to complete. The first objective is to free yet more French resistance fighters who are being held captive in nearby buildings. It's an interesting idea for an objective. You have these 2 rooms that are in 2 separate buildings, and each room contains 3 French resistance fighters. You need to blow the door off its hinges, get inside those rooms, and untie each freedom fighter before moving on to the next objective. Once we free all of those soldiers, we then move forward to find a bunch of Germans defending a building full of radio equipment. It's actually quite similar to the radio tower that we find on Operation Neptune, though this time we have many more pieces of equipment, and the German forces can actually repair the equipment if it isn't damaged too badly. So hypothetically, you're on offense, you go inside the building, you put a couple of shots into a radio, but they take you out. They can then go up and repair that radio, and it will be none the worse for wear, which is actually a very interesting gameplay mechanic. And the building itself is laid out in such a way that it doesn't really heavily favor the defending team. Like, it obviously favors them a little bit, they are on defense, but I find that this particular objective is really about which team can win their gunfights inside the building. If you're on offense and you get inside there and you kill off the entire enemy team, you can destroy all those radios very quickly and move on to the next objective. But on the flip side of things, if you're on defense and you're winning your gunfights, it can be hard for the attacking team to even get inside the building in the first place. So in my opinion, it's a really balanced objective because it's really about what team can outgun the other ones as compared to the defending team having some sort of a crazy unfair advantage or anything like that. If the attacking team does destroy all the equipment, they must then escort their tank through the train yard to get to the rest of the captive freedom fighters. The train yard is heavily defended with mounted machine guns and train cars, so it can actually be quite hard to get through, but I think Sledgehammer Games found a way to make a challenging objective for the attacking team that doesn't make you feel like you're just walking to your death over and over like the final objective on Operation Breakout. If you do get your tank to the end, it will smash into the German train, derailing it and allowing you to free all the captive French fighters. It's a really cool way to end off the game, and I really do think Operation Intercept is a good war map, and I think the Resistance DLC as a whole is a solid map pack. If you're looking for my recommendation, is it worth it? I think if you're a Call of Duty World War II fan, you are going to like all of this new content. My biggest problem with this DLC is not so much the content itself, but rather the fact that we're paying money for it as compared to it just being in the game by default. Because I think what happened is most of the stuff we're seeing here in this first DLC was cut from the base game by either Sledgehammer or Activision so they could later repackage it and sell it off as DLC. That may seem like a crazy theory, but think about that for a moment. We had 9 multiplayer maps at launch, which was really odd, the record low for the Call of Duty franchise. Back during the beta, we could see in the game files that some of these Resistance maps were actually in the game files all the way back during the beta, and on July 4th, Michael Condrey tweeted out about Wolf's Lair, which for those that don't know, that's the real-life location and the console code name for the new map Valkyrie. Why would he be tweeting about a DLC 1 map in July, well before the game actually came out? It seems incredibly abnormal for a developer to be teasing a DLC 1 map well before the game actually came out. So I really do think that they decided to cut some content from the base game and repackage it as DLC, which really doesn't sit well with me. What they're essentially doing right now is charging us $15 to unlock the rest of the base game. Think about that for a moment. Once this DLC is out for everybody and in the standard rotation, we are going to have 13 multiplayer maps, assuming they keep Winter Quarantine around, 4 war maps, and 3 zombies maps. That seems like the same amount of content we should have had in the game at launch, excluding maybe 1 or 2 zombie and war maps. If you look at this chart I found on Reddit, you can see that despite Sledgehammer Games having 3 years to develop this game, they released it with nearly half the maps of Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare 2, and Modern Warfare 3. You then combine that with the fact that a few of these DLC 1 maps have been in the game files ever since the beta, and it really does look like Sledgehammer or Activision decided to cut this content from the game in an effort to sell more map packs and more season passes. If I were Sledgehammer or Activision, I would make an official statement on this. If they didn't cut this content from the game, why not say so and maybe provide a little bit of proof and explain why the game only had 9 maps at launch? If they did cut this content from the game, then I think they need to make it up to fans by periodically releasing free DLC maps for fans to enjoy. It's not a perfect solution by any means, but I think an original map that comes out for free in between each DLC pack would be a great way to add some variety to Call of Duty World War II's base game, which is something it's desperately missing right now. But ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have for you guys here in this video. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. Those are my thoughts and feelings on the Resistance map pack here in Call of Duty World War II. Is it good? Yeah, it's actually pretty great, but I can't help but feel like we should have had this back in November. Let me know your thoughts down there in the comment section below. I hope you guys all enjoyed. Drop me a rating, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful day.